of people want me dead. They call it justice. I'm the only one who knows the truth. All I have left is the wind by my side.
Hey guys, welcome back. We are playing Yasuo today. Melee carry, among the hardest champs that you can master in League. His passive, so whenever you walk around, then you generate flow, and once it's fully stacked and you take damage from an enemy champion or a monster, then you get this temporary shield. The other part of your passive gives you double crit chance, and if you do end up getting more than 100% crit chance, then that excess crit is going to be turned into bonus AD, so you never have to worry about building too much crit. Your Q is your main low cooldown damaging ability that does deal AoE damage. Once this Q is fully stacked, then your next Q is going to be a ranged tornado that's going to knock up people in its path. So you use the Q to farm early on, guys. That passive shield really makes it a bit easier to get through the early stages because people will be trying to poke you down. Your E is what Yasuo is known for, making him super mobile. And because you have lethal tempo, guys, so the way your Q works is that the cooldown gets lowered by attack speed. And because lethal tempo can give you so much attack speed, then that cooldown is going to be low even in the early game. So Yasuo and Yone never been this strong before in the early stages because of how well lethal tempo works on them. And your W is of course the wind wall that's going to block out projectiles. This is what people hate about him because it can be really difficult to trade back once he has this ability up. But it does have a big cooldown, so you never want to waste it. Save it for those important abilities, you know, those CCing abilities, ultimate abilities, anything that can get you killed. Save it for those super important abilities and don't just waste it, because it does have a very high cooldown. When you trade with Yasuo, you need to make sure that you have like a minion wave that you can dash around to, because your E is a targeted ability, meaning that you absolutely do need targets to like dash around. Keep in mind that how E works is that it dashes a fixed distance. So it means that you can use the jungle camps like the monsters to dash through walls with. So it does make Yasuo really mobile if you know how to do it. And then if you EQ while your tornado is up, guys, then it's going to be a knock up. It's gonna spin around like a Beyblade and then knock people up. This is like an easy way to knock somebody up for that ultimate, because then it does not turn into a skill shot. It just knocks people up who are next to you. So normally it's not easy to find kills if you constantly show in the wave on Yasuo. You kind of want people to push the wave towards you, and then you look for a freeze, and then when they walk up, that's when you engage onto them. Try to stack up that Q, guys, so you have that tornado up as well, because that count as CC. That gives you that extra bit of time to like damage people while they're knocked up. Just last hit with your Q, and don't just AFK shot the wave every single time, because if they're under the tower, guys, then you can't really look for kills. You want to get kills on this champ. It's a very difficult champ, but if you master him, then you will be able to find a lot of kills, especially when you hit that level 6. So since your Q scales with attack speed, then the first item is going to be Berserkers. That is going to put your Q on a lower cooldown, and then of course you also have lethal tempo, so when you get that keystone stacked up, then your Q cooldown is going to be maxed out. It works up to a cap, of course, so you cannot just keep lowering the cooldown. The lowest it can get is 1.33 attack speed. Yasuo is very strong in the early game, especially because of this keystone here. It is also scaling champ, means he's very strong in the mid game and the late game, but now he's also strong in the early game. Some matchups can be very difficult, you know, like the Renekton, Pantheon, very annoying matchups that you want to avoid if possible. But since you're playing in the mid lane, then it's very rare that you get to meet them. Mid lane, a lot easier to find kills as well, because of the champions being squishy. But at the same time, it's also the easiest lane to gank in the game because there are so many different gank paths for the enemy junglers. Now sitting on a lot of gold, of course we want to prioritize attack speed, because as I said earlier on, how your Q works with attack speed. Then the next item, the next mythic item is going to be the shield bow. This is the only mythic item that you want to be building on Yasuo as well as Yone. It is the best item because it gives them every single stat they need. You get lifesteal, which is super OP for the laning phase, because when you take a bad trade, or if you get poked down, then you can just heal back up from the minion wave. They are also squishy champs, so that shield you get from the shield bow is also very useful to help you avoid getting burst down in a single combo. You also get attack speed and AD, so kind of get everything that you need, as well as crit of course. Don't like go for short trades normally, especially in the early game, unless there's like a super obvious way of you to all in the enemy champ and just kill them. Short trades because when you're a melee champ, it's a lot easier for you to like get minion aggro. Because range champs can just hit you from a distance, but you have to be in melee range to hit someone. You'll be taking a lot of aggro when you trade, you have to be really careful about that. Now that your ultimate, guys, how it works is that when somebody gets knocked up or displaced, then you can ult them, so Yasuo is going to teleport towards them, knocking them up, and then keeping them CC'd for a short while, and then knock them down. This does not only work off of allied knockups, it also works off of displacement abilities, you know, like the Trundle's Pillar. That also works, but you don't have that much time to pressure ultimate. So the best way to use this ultimate, you want to like wait using it until the last possible second, so like maximize the time they're CC'd. So when you see like a Malphite pressing his ultimate on a couple enemies, don't just ult immediately. Wait for the last possible split second and then use the ultimate, so like keep them CC'd for longer, because that can really make a difference in team fights. This is of course not necessary to do if you can just kill somebody instantly with that ultimate, but otherwise really make sure to do that. The ultimate, on top of dealing damage as well, it does give you that bonus armor pin, guys. This is the reason that Yasuo does not need any armor pin items, because he has it in the ultimate. So you can look for a freeze as well, because it is going to force the opponent to overextend, and that's how you find kills on Yasuo. That's how high elo players also look for kills on the Yasuo. You know, try to force them to walk up, overextend, and then just dash to them, go for the all-in. Because if it's any mage and you are on top of them at this point in the game, guys, they are going to get absolutely destroyed. And remember, for you to get that armor pin on that ultimate, it only works with crits. That's why it's important that you also maximize that crit instantly. So the two core items that we're going for will be the shield bow, and then it's going to be the Infinity Edge. Then we get 100% crit, meaning that every single auto attack is going to proc that bonus armor pin on that ultimate. Also, if you knock somebody up who's inside the tower range, the enemy tower range, then when you ult, then Yasuo is going to try to place himself out of that range. So that's also a neat trick that you know about, because that's something he does automatically, not something you have to like aim. But that is important to know. Also, it does also reset your passive. I don't know if I mentioned this. Your passive is also going to be reset when you use your ultimate. So you can like go for really sick plays when you're like low HP, and then you get that shield up, so it kind of gives you an extra chance to like look for that comeback. And then there are also really difficult moves that you can do on the Yasuo, like the Keyblade, the Air Blade. The common one, guys, is that when you have your tornado stacked up and you know that the enemy champion has his flash up, then what you can do is that you EQ and then you immediately flash on top of the champion, because that's going to like transfer the knock up and the damage over to him, and you can like use that to catch the opponent off guard with, to get the knock up, and then you follow up with the ultimate. When you do have enough attack speed and you see somebody being knocked up, don't just use your ultimate. In the early game, make sure that you like get one auto attack in and then you use your ultimate. And then in the later stages, once you have enough attack speed, then like EQ to a minion or something before you use your ultimate, because that's going to give you a free stack on your Q. So that knock up version of your Q comes up a lot faster, and it also gives you more damage. So you stack EQ first and then go into that ult. And that's something that works when you have enough attack speed. That's also another reason why attack speed is so important on these two carries, Yasuo and Yone. It's a very aggressive champ, meaning that of course you want to be looking for kills, but it's also a champ that's going to scale into the later stages. It's like a hyper carry just in melee form. The only problem is that when it gets to the later stages, even though you have so much damage, guys, it's also very easy to shut you down, especially if you play against these mages like the Victor. This is the EQ I told you about. Before you use that ultimate, then do that EQ first and then you follow up, because that's going to transfer the damage as well and also give you a free stack on that Q. But when you play against these late game mages like the Victor, they can also one-shot you, so it's very difficult for you to find kills when it's in the late game, when people start grouping up. So for Yasuo, it's especially important that you have some kind of synergy. In this game we have the Vi, we can knock up off of a Q as well as an ultimate. But you really want a champ that has like some kind of knock up or displacement ability to go for those late game team fights. It could be a Malphite, it could also be a Gragas, anything works as long as they can engage for you. Something like an Alistar would also be really great, because it's a tank that can frontline for you, and then he can also knock up multiple people. So make sure that you have some kind of synergy, because if you don't, you can still make Yasuo work, but it's going to be very difficult. Also, people will be focusing you down. That's also another thing that you have to know, is that when you play Yasuo, then everybody will be focusing you down. They'll also be trying to camp you. So that makes it even more important that you have really good vision control and also map awareness. Make sure that you ward well, so you always know where the enemy jungler is at. But this is like the stuff that you can pull off in Yasuo, those double kills and so on. If you really master this champ, then you will be able to go for this place, and of course if you're fed, then you can still do it anyways. But to really get these kills, especially against good opponents, you have to master this champ. And Yasuo is a champion that can take hundreds of games before you really master him. There's a high skill move by the Garen, just one-shotting me in a single combo. So yeah, some matchups can be really annoying to play against. But it's something you'll learn as you play this champion. Yasuo is like a champ that you have to one trick, or at least have like in top 2 of most played champs, before you can really master him and understand how his kit works, and when you can and when you cannot go for trades. But shield bow is a big power spike, and then the next spike comes in with the Infinity Edge. That's like the point where you just start shredding everything in your path. You're gonna absolutely destroy everyone, because they're not able to deal with that low cooldown, high DPS that you have on these champs like the Yasuo and Yone. And of course your Q, because it has such a low cooldown, guys, then it also works as your word clear. Another thing that Riot does not mention with how Yasuo's EQ works is that when your Q has like a super low cooldown and then you EQ, then your E is going to reset the cooldown of your Q. I don't know why, but this is not mentioned anywhere. I don't know why Riot does not mention it, because it's actually huge. Because your E resetting the cooldown of your Q, so you can like go for those plays like the Keyblade and so on. That's like the reason it works out. But it is not mentioned anywhere, so that's kind of interesting. You can also take away the jungle camps. Actually, that's something you should be doing. preferably the enemy junglers camps. Your jungle might rage if you take theirs. But like when you have shot in the wave and you don't have anything else to do, if the tower's down, there's nothing else you can take, get into the enemy jungle, take away their camps, because that is really going to tilt them. That is also going to put them further behind. That's kind of how you want to play Yasuo, and then in the mid game, of course, you also want to be in the side lanes. Sometimes your AD carry does not let you, but in the games they do. Make sure you go into the side lanes because you're super mobile, and if you can force the enemy mid laner to come to the side lane with you, that's why you have much higher chances of looking for the skills, because of an extended lane, making it much harder for the enemy champions to escape. Super mobile champ, but of course he does need minions around him. If he doesn't have that, then it's going to be difficult for you to maneuver around, and people can abuse that. So make sure when you fight and go for those all-ins, make sure that you have minions around you so you can really kite those enemy champs and get that damage off, and finally end up with that kill. Really good wave clear as well. As soon as you get a couple of items. It's a champion that has prio in a lot of matchups. Also a champ that can easily set up the junglers if they have some kind of displacement or knock up ability. But now we have that power spike. This is kind of what you play for. On Yasuo you get these two items, so that's why you start carrying the game. You're gonna absolutely shred almost anyone in a 1 versus 1. So this is the time that you start to carry guys, and this is also where you're looking to end the game. You're still squishy though, so you cannot tank people, a lot of people at once. So be careful of that. But this is kind of how you play Yasuo. So yeah, I hope this was helpful guys. As always, thank you so much for watching, and see you all in the next video.